Hey everybody, welcome. We're talking about painting photography, what you need to do it, and the skills required. So let's talk about what camera equipment you need to do this. In reality, you can do it with any camera, any lens. Just certain things can make it a lot easier for you. So for instance, you can shoot it on a film camera with no stabilization in the lens and obviously no IBIS in the camera and still get nice painting shots. But that takes a lot of practice, a lot of time, and the IBIS and stabilization in the lens can definitely save you. So if you have a basic camera like a Z52, it comes with a kit lens of 16-50 and it is stabilized. It has VR or OSS in the lens. And you can take decent photos with this, but it is a 6:3 lens whenever you're zoomed in out all the way. So you're not going to get too creamy of a bokeh background in your panned shots. I'm currently filming on 24-70 f4S lens, and you can still get nice painting shots on that, especially if you put on a Z body that has IBIS built into the camera. In reality, kind of the perfect automotive racing panning lens would be a 70-200, and they all have VR inside of them, and it really helps your image stabilization to get nice low shutter speed shots. But the more zoomed in you are on the subject, the more obvious errors are going to be when you pan. So if the car only takes up this much of the image, it's going to look a lot sharper than if the car takes up this much of the image. So sometimes you can get away without having a lens with stabilization, especially if your camera has stabilization built in. 2 years ago, I was using this lens right here for automotive panning. It is a 105 MC 2.8S macro lens, but it worked really nice with panning. And some of my favorite shots came out of this lens. And this lens is stabilized, so whenever you use this lens with an Expeed 7 camera, it will combine this stabilization with the camera IBIS, and you'll gain about 1 to a half a stop of extra stabilization. Now if you want something a lot sharper and a little bit more fun, you can step it up to a 135. A 135 1.8 can get you some crazy sharp images, but it is not stabilized, and you need to rely on your camera's IBIS. But as I said, you don't need it, but IBIS definitely helps. So whenever we talk about filters for on these lenses, the first thing you want to look at is an ND filter. And I will have links in the description down below for all these filters, all the equipment, everything you see, if you're interested in supporting the channel. And if you are shooting a fast aperture lens, like a 1.8, a 2.8, even an f4, and if it's a bright day out, as it is usually in the summertime, you will need a filter to reduce the light coming onto your sensor or your film. Because if you're shooting like 1/40th, 1/60th of a shutter speed with a lens wide open to get a nice blurred background during panning, you're going to have too much light coming in and you have overexposed problems. So if you get a filter, you can put on the front and it removes your overexposure issues. Now if you are shooting photo and video at an event, what you need is a VND filter. And all of my VND filters are KF Concept Nano X filters. And what's neat about the VND filter, variable filter, is as you rotate the front element, it gets darker, rotate it back, it gets lighter. And I would recommend buying the biggest filter for your lenses so that you can use one filter on all the lenses. So like this Plena, for example, it's an 82mm. This is an 82mm filter. This macro lens is not an 82, it's a 62. So when you go to put your filter on this lens, because the filter is bigger than the lens, you're going to want to use step rings. And a set of step rings is very cheap. I just keep them in a little bag I have sitting around the house. Just keep all your rings in here. So you have step up rings, step down rings, everything in between, and they usually come in a whole set for like 10 bucks. It's definitely a good investment. So if you're sitting here taking pictures, you're probably going to have it on a darker setting, and if you go to take video, you're probably going to have it a little bit lighter setting. So all you got to do is reach to the front and twist it to whatever you need for the exposure you need, so you can bounce between photo and video very easily. It's just a flip of a switch and a turn of the filter. So when it comes to equipment I would suggest that's not really needed but makes your life easier is a set of nice filters, a lens with stabilization, a camera with IBIS. If you compare all those together, it really makes your job a little bit easier. You'll probably get 10 to 15 shots per burst that are usable versus 1, 2, or 3. Another item you really need to consider whenever you're out shooting panning is you want a nice strap. This is a Black Rapid strap. This is the Black Rapid Sport Breathe, I think it is. I've had this strap for about 7 years. I've used it pretty much every time I've taken my camera out in that period of time. It screws into the tripod foot or the hole in the bottom of your camera. And then it just goes over your shoulder. This little armpit strap clips in, pull it tight, and the camera weight will keep it right here. It's nice and padded. It's really nice for like a 7200 or even just a smaller prime like a 135, and it feels really nice. Whenever you're doing a lot of panning, your upper body is going to get sore, tired. Having a good strap, just let the camera dangle there while you're walking around, makes your life a lot easier. Another option with a camera strap you can consider is a monopod. If you're older, if you have arthritis, or if you don't have very strong upper body strength and you're using a 7200 or even a 180 to 600, you can put a monopod underneath it and it can make your life a lot easier when you're pivoting. Because whenever you're pivoting the pan, you're pretty much staying in one spot and just rotating on the same location. So let's talk about physically panning. What do you do with your body to give you the best chance of getting a good keeper? So whenever people start out, the first thing they're going to do, without thinking about it, is they're going to take this and they're going to use their arms. And they're going to try and follow the subject with moving your arms and your elbows and your hands and your shoulders and everything else. If you do that, you're not going to have a good time. It's not going to work out well for you. Hopefully I have enough room here to demonstrate. But what you want to do, take your camera, this hand on top, this hand support the lens like this, and then take your elbows, put them to your side. Don't move your elbows. And whenever you put up to your eye, do not move your upper body. Just pivot with your hips, like this. Never you move your arms, your elbows, your shoulders, anything from the belly button up. Don't move it. For the best success rate, especially if you're shooting cars or aircraft, anything that's, long this way, shoot horizontal. Don't shoot vertical. And if you want to have a shot that's vertical for Instagram or anything else, just zoom out a little bit and give yourself more cropping room. If it's an online publishing, you don't need 50 megapixels to have a good image. You can crop in, get your vertical shot from a horizontal image, and you'll be good to go. The reason for that is if you're shooting horizontal, you have more of the image box to keep your subject in and track it through the whole frame. When you first start panning, try to keep the subject in the center of the frame. Don't try to be cutesy about it. Learn the right way first, then you can worry about breaking some eggs. One last tip for, panning across, hold your breath when you go across. Don't try and breathe as you go through. Breathing is going to move your camera in and out. It's going to do this. And your long shutter speeds, like 1/40th, 1/50th, 1/60th, sometimes even 1/30th, any movement of the camera will blur your image and it will not be sharp. And this is more of a safety tip. Whenever you get to a location on a track or an air show, anything like that, especially a place you haven't been before, look around you before you start taking pictures and plan which way you would go away from the track. Hide behind a jersey barrier or something in case a car loses control coming towards you. For most of us, it's not going to be a problem because you're not going to have a hot pass to be shooting directly on the track. You're going to be shooting from a spectator area, but still, if you're in a spectator area, there's not a full cage fence in front of you and it's open, and you're not shooting through a fence. Plan for a way for you to get away. Don't turn your back on the track. Keep your wits about you. So now we're going to go into the settings and what I would recommend you use for shooting panning. So when it comes to shooting on a Nikon, especially a Z mount, if you have a camera with IBIS, this is a Z50, does not have IBIS, but the lens is stabilized. Make sure your stabilization is on. If you have a camera with IBIS and stabilization in the lens, I would suggest using sport mode. That is what combines your IBIS with the VR and the lens, gives you a little bit more stabilization than you would without it. When it comes to even DSLRs, I would recommend either using 3D tracking if your camera has it, and if it does not, use dynamic area. It looks like a little cross. Put it in the center of your frame, keep the subject on the center of that, act like a target reticule, and just follow it through the frame, and it will help you keep the subject centered. Once you become better at keeping it centered, you can switch to like 3D tracking or auto area or anything else that you really prefer, but dynamic is a good place to start. So whenever it comes to frames per second or your burst or whatever on your camera, there's no one rule rules them all for this. So this is a Z52, it is not a stacked sensor or anything like that. So if you put on the highest frames per second, which is about 11, you can shoot 200 frames continuously for a total of 20 seconds, give or take. But the problem with that is there's a little tiny micro delay between the image you see in the viewfinder and what's at the track. So it can be easy for you to be zoomed in too far and this car takes up the whole frame, and by the time the next image flashes in the viewfinder, the car's already gone. It makes it a little bit harder to do tracking. So if you reduce it down to about 5 frames per second, you'll see a more consistent viewfinder experience in the camera. But you know, if you have a Z8, a Z9, a Z6 III, anything like that, you're gonna have 120 frames per second viewfinder with blackout free, all that fun stuff. So it doesn't really affect you. So then you can just put the camera to the max frames per second that you want. And then everyone's on a DSLR, just shoot the max frames per second the camera offers, because there's really not a blackout problem similar to a mirrorless as a DSLR. So this is how I would do setting up your exposure for doing panning. So you got your lens and camera here, put your VND or ND filter on here, go to photo mode, and then find a car sitting somewhere. There's going to be cars all over the place if you're at a track or an air show, anything like that. Make sure you're in manual. I would set the aperture to as fast as you can. So on this lens, it's 6.3, which is pretty slow, but so once you got the aperture set to 6.3, set your shutter speed to about 1/50th, 1/60th, and then put your ISO as low as you can. Basically, you want to be as close to base ISO as you can. So on a Z52, base ISO is 100 ISO. Then once you get to there, with your ND, it should be relatively close to being, an equal exposure. And if you have a VND, you can adjust it by twisting it. That's why I like VNDs. You can adjust it to fit the exposure that you need for the situation. And for lighting, for your automotive racing, outdoor automotive racing, I would say any day that is slightly overcast or some clouds gives you the best shots. You don't have any sharp shadows in your images. It looks a lot better. So when it comes to practicing panning before you get to a show or an event, you want to get some time under your belt, my number one recommendation is find an overpass, an interstate, a parking lot next to a very busy road. I know it's in public. Some people might feel uncomfortable doing this, but if you want to practice, find a busy road, stand next to it, just pan on all the cars going by. Preferably a road where cars are going 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. That'll give you the best experience to kind of simulate going to a racetrack. So let's just talk about some extra tips and thoughts before we close out the video. You can pan on anything you want. It doesn't have to be cars and planes. It could be people walking. It could be birds in flight. It could be really anything that's moving. And if you're able to do that or practice or try it, you might be able to apply that to your regular panning practices. When you first started out, panning subjects that are perfectly parallel directly in front of you will be the sharpest. If they're coming around the bend on a track or they're turning through the sky and you try panning on it, it will not be a sharp image. Sometimes you can still get a very interesting image doing that, but it might not be what you're looking for. If it's really windy out, okay? If it's really windy out, this might not be so bad. This one might not be so bad. But this lens hood is going to catch the wind like a sailboat. So you can be sitting there panning and a strong gust of wind will hit it and kind of knock the lens a little bit. So I would suggest just take it off, leave it in your bag, shoot without it. You're probably going to have a filter on anyway, so it'll protect your front element. Whenever you're shooting a competitive racing situation, try to shoot a little wider so that you can get more than one car in the image to give it a competitive feel, like it's not just one car for a guy going for a ride. And also try to get something interesting in the background or the foreground. One of my favorite photos, which is hanging on my wall, it has people in the foreground with their phones up taking pictures as a formula car goes by. And it kind of adds to the feeling of the image. If you're at an air show and you're trying to pan on an aircraft, if they're flying through the sky, you're not really going to see it as a pan unless you're shooting like 1/10 of a second and the clouds are streaked or something. But it works best if the aircraft is just taken off the runway or landing or flying with treetop behind it, something close to the ground to give it the sense of speed. And another idea that I've done before is if you're shooting photo video together and say you're taking a video and something really cool happens, but you wished, man, I wish I was taking a picture at that time instead of doing a video. Most of the time you're going to be shooting at 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, something like that. So you can go into an editor like Resolve, edit your file the way you want, and then pluck out a single frame, and whenever you export it, it'll still be usable for publishing on the internet or anything like that. Because if you export a 4K image, it'll still be about 8 megapixels, which is plenty to post on social media. And the last big tip I have, some lenses have focus limiters on the outside, some of them are in the camera, and some cameras let you program in your own focus limiter. So if you can program in the camera for your focus limiter, you can avoid people's heads in front of you at an air show, or their cameras, or the chairs, or flags, anything like that, so that you can keep your camera from getting confused from the aircraft that you're trying to pan going by versus, Cleveland Air Show flag flying in the background, the foreground, right in front of your face. So I've been wanting to make this video for a couple years now because I feel like this is important information. I see it asked on Discord quite a bit. And if you're interested, join the Photography Lounge Discord, link in the description as well. So, until next time, happy panning out there, and I'll see you. I wish you the best of luck, and you need patience and learn.